Exercise 3G, question 8. Notice we hadn't been integrating tan, only sec squared. So we can integrate tan. So using the fact that tan of x is sine on x on cos of x, use that fact to show that the integral between pi on 4 and 0 of tan of x dx is a half ln2. So I'm going to start doing that down here. So the integral of tan of x between pi on 4 and 0. Now we need to write that as the integral isn't tan sine x on cos x. Now whenever you're integrating a fraction, that's when we're doing logs. Do you remember? In our topic on logarithmic functions. If the function, it has to be, for you to be able to integrate that, we like it to be in the form of f dashed x on fx. What's the integral of f dashed x on fx? ln function of x. That's going back to the logarithms topic. So when you see the integral of a fraction, if it's 1 over something, it's okay, it's just normal methods. But if it's a function on top of another function, you're hoping that the function on the numerator is the derivative of the function on the denominator. And if it is in that format, then you've got the integral is a logarithmic function. So if we're trying to see if we fit into this, what's our function of x in this case? Sin x or cos x? So cos x, and what is f dashed x? If your function is cos x, what's the derivative? Is it positive or negative sin x? Good. So what we know how to do is, it's that, right? But we actually don't have that, do we? The integral of tan x is that, but we don't have that. What do we have? We know how to integrate the negative sine over cos. Now, that's not my question. So what do I do to balance that out? I put a negative out the front. And now what I'm trying to do is the same as what I am doing. Do we sort of get this? So now, what's the integral of negative sine x on cos x? It's in that format. ln of cos x between pi and 4 and 0. We okay? So we're doing part A first, which is negative ln cos of pi on 4 minus ln cos 0. So it's negative ln. What's cos of pi on 4? ln 1 on root 2 minus ln. What's cos of 0? How do you do ln of something minus something else? You divide them. 1 on root 2 divided by 1, which is just, don't you divide them? What's ln 1 anyway, girls? Isn't ln 1 0? So you don't have to divide if you don't want. It's just negative ln 1 on root 2 minus 0, which is negative ln 1 on root 2, but I don't write it like that. What do I do? What can I do with this, 1 on root 2? How can I write it? Negative ln, isn't that root 2 to the negative 1? Yeah? Actually, all right, so isn't it, can I bring the negative to the front? Yeah. No, isn't ln 1 0? All right, now what else can I do? Can't I write that as root 2 to the power of negative 1? Or I could also write it as something else. Okay, up to here. Yeah? Can I bring that negative to the front? Isn't that just ln root 2? Because it's negative, bring the power to the front. If it was squared, you'd bring the 2 to the front. So it's negative ln root 2, which is just ln root 2. Now, isn't that ln 2 to the power of a half? Which is, bring the power to the front, a half ln 2 as required. In pi on 2 and pi on 6 of cot x dx. That is the same as doing the integral between pi on 2 and pi on 6 of cot of x over, not cot of x, cos of x over sine of x. Now, we're integrating a fraction. So we're recognizing this as possibly being the integral of f dash x on fx, that's the log of the function of x. So our function of x is our denominator. Differentiate function of x and you get f dash x. What's the derivative of sine? Is it positive cos or negative cos? Positive. This is even better. There's nothing to adjust. So that, therefore, is equal to, it's in the format of f dash x on fx. What does it equal? The ln of what? Sine of x. And we're substituting values of pi on 6 and pi on 2 and pi on 6. So now you can just substitute ln sine pi on 2 minus ln sine of pi on 6. What's sine of pi on 2? Sine of 91. ln 1 minus ln sine of 30. A half. What do you do when you... We can just... Look, we know that ln 1 is 0. So that's just 0 minus ln a half. So it's negative ln half. What are we going to do with that? How do you write a half? 2 to the power of negative 1. So what's our answer? It's just ln 2. Okay? So just an overview. We now know how to integrate sine x. And we get negative cos x. We know how to integrate cos x. We get sine x. Sorry. We know how to integrate sec squared x. With respect to x, we get tan x. We now know how to integrate tan of x by writing our function as sine x on cos x, and we will get a log. You'll get ln as your answer. And we also now know how to integrate cot x by writing it as cos x on sine x, and this one's straightforward because you do get ln. This one you will get ln of sine x. This one you'll get negative because integrate cos, you get negative. No, you get sine. Sorry. Cos, you get negative sine, so that'll be the negative one. If you differentiate sine, you get cos, that's the positive one. Okay? Remember, they're all plus c. But you can get variations of that. Okay, so you now know how to integrate sine, cos, sec squared. You know how to integrate tan of x using sine x on cos x and logs. And you know how to integrate cot x using cos x on sine x and using logs.